everyone. My name is Laurie Maxon. I am the owner of Your Essential Insights, and I welcome you. I'm so glad you stopped by. The topic I want to talk about today is perception. We hardly ever think about that or even consider that. It's something that we really need to work on in our own personal lives. So let me ask you, do you think the same way I do? Well, why not? And I think that so often in life, we go through thinking that everyone should believe exactly how we believe. They should do the things that we suggest because we're right and they're wrong. But let's talk a lot about perception today on some different areas because I think what's going to happen is, or at least I'm hoping will happen is that you're going to start thinking about the different perceptions that you have versus others. And I think what we want to understand too here is how powerful your brain is. See, it works normally to keep you in a comfortable zone, but that comfortable zone limits your thinking. And the only way to move forward is actually to push yourself to change and to create new beliefs, new habits, new learning, and to take action in order to actually gain what you desire. So, what I want to challenge you before we even get started is to invest in yourself. And I'm not talking about your physical appearance because most likely that's all we really care about at times. But I want you to start investing on your mind. And I want you to start investing in your thinking and what that produces. So you're going to need to consider, what do you want your life to look like? What would you want to be different? And what's keeping you from moving beyond where you are today into where you want to go? So, every decision, every action, every choice, every response, every reaction comes from your brain. And if you're not seeing the results you're wanting, it's time to check your thinking. And your perception is a big way to do that. So, what is perception? Perception is the ability to see, hear, or become aware of something through the senses. And it's a way of regarding, understanding, or interpreting something. So if we all have our own perceptions, it's our way of interpreting or understanding something. It's not real. Because real means that it's not imagined or supposed. And it's not the reality because that is the state of things as they actually exist. And our perception means that our beliefs, our ideas are all going to be different. And so we need to really understand that, especially when we're dealing with other people. So let's keep going. And one of the things I want to ask you about is the movie Titanic. So keep in mind the two main characters, Rose and Jack, because we're going to dive into that a little bit. So, what's mojo? Mojo is something I want you to keep in the forefront. Mojo is monitoring our judgmental outlook because when we have a perception about something, we're usually making a judgment, whether it's good or bad. That's what happens in the brain. So when you're looking at something, if you're in a business meeting, if you are in a relationship, having a discussion with someone, you are using your perception, your ideas or beliefs about something to make a judgment. So keep mojo in mind because I want you to start monitoring those judgments or those ideas that are coming to place, because when you do that, you'll be able to really increase a more positive outcome than a negative one. And when I was talking to you about the Rose and Jack, picture those two and the different lifestyles, the different beliefs that they both had. And when they first met, they kind of clashed because why? They came from different um, lifestyles, and the responses and the reactions were both different. And so they tried at first to manipulate the other person by their perception of the other person, because they couldn't understand, why can't you see this? Why do you behave like that? And it wasn't until they really took the time to understand the other person, monitoring their outlook, that their belief systems and their ability to change took place. Okay, so let's keep going. So let's first start with our perception of others, because I think we do this most times. And I want you to think about what that cost you, because when I ask you that, there is a cost to having your perception of other people, making that judgment. And the risk in this is that we can actually limit our relationships. We break relationships. We don't see value in others, and we can't learn from others, because what we do in our minds is we diminish their capacity to actually contribute. And that brings harm to people and their thinking. And we judge and criticize, and we make jokes and excuses for our behavior. Now, I'm sure that if you spent a lot of time thinking about this, you could even define more ways that your perception of others brings risk into these relationships. Think of where you are even right now. Think about when you've applied your perception onto someone else, whether it was a family member, coworker, boss, out in your community. um, when you actually looked at someone and without knowing, you just made a judgment. You perceived something about them, maybe based on the way they looked, and how that impacts your thinking, because it brings negativity in there. And then sometimes it would be a more positive thing because you like their what they're contributing, or you um, like the way they look or they behave. We're going to talk about that in a little bit too. So, what are the benefits? This is what I'm going to share too. This is the positive side of that. When you perceive others, if we can get into the habit of not immediately assigning a label of judgment, but instead look at somebody that, basically they have value. They're creative in their own way, because even if you can't see it, they're capable people. We don't ever see the full extent of an individual and what they're capable of. We can actually enhance that by sharing the things that we do see in them. And they're complete. This is an intrinsic methodology. When you consider that every individual, and sometimes it's hard to believe, I understand, but each individual really has the ability to be creative, capable, and complete, meaning that they have everything they need to be who they were created to be. And it's their uniqueness. It's what makes us fulfilled in living the life that we enjoy, is when we can really understand and get a hold of the fact that we have value and we can contribute. So, if we did consider everybody as creative, capable, and complete, what would change in us and others? See, we have to understand that people don't have to be like us to have value. Because see, we don't know what other people go through. We make quick judgments all the time based on an action or a response in the moment. But if we actually sat down and listened to someone, I think that our perception would begin to change. Let me give you a for instance. You're following somebody on the highway, and this person is in front of you. You cannot pass them, and they are going like 30 miles below the speed limit. We immediately, or at least I have in the past, make a judgment. My perception of them at that time is, what the heck is wrong with you? Get out of the way, speed up. Can't you see the speed limit sign? And I make a judgment. But what if, I actually pulled into a parking lot and they were there, and for some reason I actually was able to have a conversation with them where I overheard them talking? And what if their family was just in an accident and he lost or she lost family members due to someone going too fast and wrecking into the family's car and killing family members? Wouldn't your perception immediately change? You see, we don't know what's going on. And so we must slow down our judgments. We must be aware of the times that our perception can be leading us astray. And I want you to consider that, because I think it's so important that we start to realize that even other people's perception of us, sometimes we put on a face that isn't real, and others are judging us because of that, because they don't know what's going on in our lives. So let's talk too about our perception of ourselves. This to me is a big one. And I really want you to think about this. At least this is what I see and I hear. Our normal behavior now is that we base our perception of ourselves, as far as social media goes, on the number of likes we have, the number of friends, and we really don't care about connecting with them. And then we, have our emails and our texting, and this is increasing while the face to face or on the phone is decreasing. And how many times have you misinterpreted an email or a text and became angry, and that was not really what the other person intended? And then we fill our minds with these negative reality shows, the world news, and the people. And that's all that's coming in. And we begin to hate, we begin to dislike, we begin to create a more negative environment than it should be, because that's all that they show. And then our environment, we focus on fitting in rather than standing out or alone. And we say things to gain approval rather than what's really the truth. And we expect less of ourselves rather than more. See, if this is our perception of ourselves, what is that costing us? Think about that. If our goal was to be more mindful of who we are, and we actually examined our hearts and minds. I mean, we made that a practice. It wasn't just something we thought of, went in one ear and out the other. This is a daily action that we are asking ourselves, who are we? What are my beliefs? Are we people of integrity? Are we loving and compassionate? Do we care about what memories we're going to leave behind and that others are going to have of us? Who do we desire to be? Are we living the life we dreamed of? Do we know what we were created for and what we're doing, and if we're doing it? Are we conducting ourselves to the highest degree? Are we sharing our knowledge to better someone else? Are we intentional about seeking more positive in our lives and focusing on that? See, this is the meaning of life, and our perception of ourselves is critical. It becomes the mirror image of what others seeing us and what they are seeing in you. We need to be more respectful, trustworthy, and compassionate. And we need to be people that are united and not divided. See, our beliefs are cemented into our minds when they're attached with an emotion. So if all we see and do is bringing in negativity into our lives, That's what we will become. But we can change that, and it's vital that we start paying attention to this. See, there's going to be individuals that simply don't value themselves or others, and we're not going to be able to change their attitudes or their actions, but we can change ours. And because our minds are open to feel, I encourage you to fill yours with joy for the small things in life as well as the big. Be people of gratitude and show it often. Let integrity dominate your thinking in everything. Learn to forgive and to let go. Find the beauty in life again and make note of it and give thanks for it. Make a journal, write it down. Let's be perception or have perception of the positive things that are going on in our lives. And others' perception of you. Think about that. We talked about your perception of others, your perception of yourself, and now others' perception of you. And I'll ask you the same question. What is it costing you? Do you care what others think about you? Are you mindful of what others see in you? Have you thought about what you want others to see in you? See, I think oftentimes we just kind of expect people to see our value or to know that we're a good person, but we don't behave like that. So if that's what you want, you better make sure that your outward appearance and the things that you're doing are in line with that, especially if you want others to see it. Are there people you're disconnected from and you don't even know why? That could be because they have a different perception of you. So that's important if you want to build relationships. That, I'm not saying that you need to connect with everyone, but you could be breaking relationships just because of the way you act and behave, because others are perceiving something in you that may not be real or true. And the purpose that I think that we really need is that we want to be warm and inviting. We want to be open and honest. If we really focused on being a person that loves, cares, gives, inspires, teaches, forgives, shows compassion, don't you think that others' perception of you would be different? And I ask you to really assess yourself, because our normal behavior is simply assessing our physical bodies. Is my hair good? Do my clothes look good on me? What kind of car do I have? And we don't spend very much time or money on our mindsets. And this is vital for us to really understand. Who we are and what we do is driven by our thinking, whether it's good or bad. So investing in ourselves and our beliefs and our actions is what's going to move us forward and allow us to create our purpose. I think, even if you think back to maybe a job that you have or that you had, what is your mindset at work? Are your actions, limiting your growth in the company? Is your boss seeing your potential? Are they seeing that you are a purpose worth, a person worth moving forward? Because you have to have integrity in order to achieve more things in life. And, I've invested in my learning from many experts, and I keep seeking out valuable insights, even about who I am, my personality. And I discovered a tool that I use, and I'll share with you too. It is How the World Sees You by Sally Hogshead. This was probably the funnest thing that I've ever taken in my life. Her book is exceptional. And yes, I am an affiliate for her. You can go to my website at www.youressentialinsights with an S on the end.com. Go under my About page, scroll down to the bottom, and you will see a big box of her product. And if you really want to see how the world sees you, it's really it'll take you back, because it's a nicely set up assessment that asks some simple questions, but she gives you a document at the end that fully describes and how you can become more of you that way, and what the world, what your employer, what your family is seeing in you. And you can determine then, is that what you want them to see? Are you a bulldog, or are you a sweet Labrador retriever? Now, that's not what the assessment says, but it gives you the idea. We kind of look at ourselves differently than others see us. So I would encourage you to take a look at, see if it's something that you are actually aware of that you're doing. So let's talk about mindfulness. I keep telling you that you really need to be mindful of your actions. We need to be mindful of our perception. And think about this. As a child, most of us believed we were invincible. And then we fell from a tree and, maybe got hurt, but we didn't realize that we couldn't fly. And then as teenagers, we didn't think it was a big deal if we said we were going one place and ended up in another. And then we didn't understand why we got in trouble, or, because our parents couldn't find us. Then as an adult, we're the ones actually punishing our children, our teens, for not behaving appropriately. And now as maturing adults, or when you will get there, we're the ones sharing our beliefs, our ideas. We're more open to hearing others without arguing. We go through changes, but it's to be mindful of our beliefs and our ideas about things. And then we have to really ask ourselves questions to keep us in check. It's not like something that you only have to do once. This is consistent. Why is it important to be perceptive? Because if we aren't, negative behaviors go unchallenged. And we're no longer seeing those that need love, inspiration, compassion. And what more can we learn if we chose to listen to what others see and believe? That doesn't mean that, we follow their path or we do what they say. But what if we actually listen to somebody who said to us, you know what, you're acting like a bully, or you're not really being very kind? If we actually listen to that, and then, we're mindful about, hey, is that me? Am I doing that? And if it is, what steps do I want to take to change that? Because I think that what we would see is there could possibly be more relationships developed instead of broken. Because what is the cost of thinking we are always right? And then what's the cost of us limiting our own thinking? Think about those questions, because they're big. What is the cost of thinking that we are always right? And what is the cost of limiting our own thinking? I hope that this has served you. I hope that I've given you some things to start thinking about. I hope that you actually, start applying and challenging yourself. How are you perceiving other people? How are people perceiving you? What do you want to change? Do you consider other people as being valuable? They're creative, capable, and complete? See, no one is responsible for your thinking, your actions, or your reactions. It's you. So you need to be the one to determine what you are sharing with the world, what they're seeing in you, Don't blame anybody else. Change your thinking, change your responses, change your actions. Become that person you want others to see in you. And a lot of times I hear people blaming their past or their situations or other people. And I understand, I understand that a lot of people, some have had very traumatic experiences in their life, but I'll share this. You cannot live in your past and move forward. Be aware of it, accept it, but you have to move on, because if you stay there, you will stay in a negative mindset, and you'll just keep reliving it. Now, I can help you. Um, I want you to understand that I, when I say that you can't blame anyone, you can't. I know that people are out there and listening even today, you've been hurt by someone else, but don't give them any more power. Don't give them power to control the rest of your life. You know, there's ways to move forward. There's ways to look at yourself, perceive yourself differently, because you have value. Don't waste it on living in your past. On the bottom here, you'll see that's I provided for you how to get to my website, how to check out that assessment tool if you're interested. But I think that even if you're not interested in that, that's fine. I just shared that with you because I found it valuable for me. It really showed me a lot about myself. And some of the things I didn't like at first, so I had to work on changing that. Other things I thought I'm going to become more of because this is exciting. If you are interested in a personalized coaching session, please get in touch with me. Don't continue living in a world that is not bringing you joy. There is a purpose for you out there. If you're struggling in some ways that you can't seem to overcome on your own, get in touch with me. Let's set up a session and get you started moving in the right direction. Life isn't meant for us to just, you know, be miserable all the time or disappointed or living in a negative zone. It was meant for us to move forward and to enjoy and to share that with other people. So I hope your perception has changed, and I hope that you're willing to apply some strategies to begin living a new life today. Be mindful and be open. Be a person of integrity. Become more of the person that you want others to see. Okay, this is Laurie Maxon. Once again, thank you again for joining me. If you want information, go ahead and visit youressentialinsights.com, and I'll be presenting to you sometime in the near future again. So be watching. Thanks.